Welcome to our top 5 video, guys. Today we're gonna look at what are the 5 best Hearthstone decks right now after the latest patch. I'll show you their mulligans, give you some general tips for them, as well as their matchups, so you have a better idea of what you're playing with and against. If you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Also, Blizzard has provided me with some standard bundle codes for the new expansion, so if you guys want to have a chance to win one of those, leave a comment what's your favorite Hearthstone deck right now, and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And you can also share the video around for extra bonus karma points. I will be drawing the winner live on stream this Sunday, so be on the lookout for that. Now, let's check out the decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list is going to be Rainbow Death Knight, and this deck has almost 65% win rate, with almost 2,000 games for the last 3 days, so it's definitely super solid. This particular list looks pretty standard to what we're used to seeing in Rainbow Death Knight, and there's nothing really that stands out, so basically if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We still have double Acolyte of Death, plus double crop rotation so you can draw a ton of cards, or you can also combo it off with your Sickly Grimwalker. We also have the Malignant Horror, which can be super sticky and hard to deal with, especially if you keep on generating corpses. Tons of card draw with the Gold Banner. We also have a single Chillfallen Baron in this one. You can also cycle some cards with the Miracle Salesman. The Mining Casualties help you control the board early as well as generate more corpses. Maw and Paw also generate corpses and whatnot. Murloculous gets down for 0 super easily. Corpse Bride expends the corpses nicely, so you can actually drop some double Stitch Giants pretty fast. Primus is obviously no brainer. You can do some OTKs or just tempo plays with the Climatic Necrotic Explosion. And Reska can also be pretty brutal if you time it correctly. One tip with this deck is, if you actually are planning to play Malignant Horror and Maw and Paw, if you actually play Maw and Paw first, and then the Malignant Horror, at the end of your turn, Maw and Paw will be generating the 5 corpses first, and then the Horror will be expending those corpses for you. So this might matter for you if you're actually low on corpses. Another thing with the Horror, you might want to actually leave some board spaces for them to multiply. So if you already have this on the board, and you're thinking about hero powering, consider if that is going to be leaving you with enough board spaces for these to multiply, because the hero power will die after these try to multiply. Matchup wise, we don't see that much just yet, but Highlander Warrior might be a problem, but the rest looks pretty solid. For the mulligan, here's what it looks like going first, and yeah, the Mining Casualties is pretty nice, Gold Banner for the card draw, Miracle Salesman is great on turn 1, Maw and Paw is also an excellent tempo play because it's very hard to deal with, and also even if they deal with it, they probably spend their entire turn doing that. Murloculous, I think you could consider it if you already have Mining Casualties. Sickly Grimwalker might be a consideration against certain matchups, I guess, and Chillfallen Baron's also not bad. Crop rotation might also be an excellent tempo play even on turn 3, just so you can follow up with something like a Malignant Horror on 4. As for on the coin, it's pretty close to the same, but here even things like Acolyte of Death make some sense apparently, especially if you have a tour guide to combo it off with. On the number 2 spot, we have another Death Knight deck, and this is going to be a Plague Death Knight, which has close to 64% win rate, again with 2,000 games. This is another pretty standard list nowadays. Even though Magatha hasn't been seeing that much inclusion in some of those Plague decks lately, but this one does run it, as well as Sylvanas, and the only spells we're running in here is Down with the Ship, as well as Reap What You Sow. We are running some blue, so we can have some hardcore cultist action, but we're not even running Tessarian in this one, which is a little bit weird, but I guess the stats don't lie. With the Plague package and the Mining package, you're definitely a force to be reckoned with. And again, we have Reska, which can be very nice if timed correctly. The Chain Guardians drop down nice and fast. Primus is still in here, obviously. And we have Vizier, so you can discover maybe some extra mining or some extra plague stuff. Matchup-wise, Rainbow Death Knight is a little bit under the 50, Mech Rogue is just 50, and everything else is great, so climbing again should not be an issue. As for on the coin, going first, you basically want the good plague stuff. It's actually surprising to see that Helia is not even that high on the win percent when going first, even though she's obviously always gonna get kept. Burrow Buster, I feel like it's a little bit too high on the win rate. I wouldn't really hold on to it that much, same for Reska. But yeah, all of the play cards are excellent. Vizier could be a decent keep if you already have, let's say, a Kvaldir to hold on to. Kobold Miner is an okay keep, it's not your best thing to be doing early on, but it's still not bad. And Chillfallen Baron is also not horrible when going first. When going second, however, the Chillfallen Baron is a little bit less keepable here, because you'd much rather be coining bring out Helya on turn 3 or something like that. But yeah, again, all of the play cards are great. Again, the Burrow Buster, super low kept rate, super high win rate, so I'm not sure about that. And going second, you might even consider the Tomb Trader and the Hardcore Cultist, depending on the matchup. For other good Death Knight decks right now, these are the two I showed you, and they're obviously great, and we're gonna see a lot of iterations of those two, even though there's even a 40 Plague Death Knight that's doing okay, but the sample size is super small. We also have Plague DK with the Naphrius in there, which is kind of fun. And yeah, we're basically gonna have to scroll past a lot of Plague and Rainbow in order to see something different and not as good. But Highlander Blood Death Knight is here with pitiful under 50%, so yeah, stick to those two. On the number 3 spot, we have Aggro Pally, and this is a pure list with the Countess in there, and we still have the standard good 1-drops, a bunch of buffs. Hi-Ho is great, Mining Casualties is nice and sticky, Deputization Aura is a single copy here so you can get some healing, as well as some extra damage, which you're not gonna have to spend mana on when you start swinging. Muster for Battle is a single copy in here as well, and also a Crusader Aura, and those can definitely feel nice if the board actually remains for you. Buffet Biggin helps you on that aspect. We also have a couple of Jitterbugs for the card draw, Keeper's Strength is still an excellent control tool, Countess for some random legendary action, and a couple of Garden's Grace, which go down to 0 quite fast. Matchup wise, you literally only have a single bad one, and that'll be Rainbow Death Knight, because with the crop rotation and whatnot, they're definitely very flexible at trading your small stuff, but everything else is great. As for the mulligan going first, here's what it shows. Buffet Biggin a little bit high, but if you already have a 1-drop and a 2-drop, it's gonna be excellent, especially if you have Mining Casualties like that alone. Gets it going for a turn 4. Countess, I would only consider Countess if I already have a pretty good opener, and also against particular matchups, but I'm not even sure I'd ever keep Countess nowadays going first, like it's kinda iffy. Sympho Sous Chef is not a bad 1-drop. Righteous Protector is your worst 1-drop, but it's still better than no 1-drop. Just don't overkeep more than one 1-drop with this deck, because that's what we have Boogie Down for in the end of the day. Hand of a Doll can also be a consideration if you already have a sticky Sanguine Soldier, let's say. As for on the coin, here Boogie Down is a lot more keepable. It's kind of surprising that when going first Boogie Down is this low. I'd say it's still a pretty darn good keep, but this is what the stats are showing. But as for on the coin, it's your third best card. Buffet Biggin is still great, and you can do them as soon as turn 3. Mining Casualties again. The good 1-drops are also nice, and Hi-Ho still great. Depending on the matchup, you might even consider Keeper's Strength, especially if you're curving well. For other good Pally decks, we also have non-pure variants with the Mining Package and whatnot. There's also the Freebird variant doing okay, not a big sample size but pretty good results. This is the variant I showed you. There's also a very populated list with a little bit less win rate, which is also doing hella fine. This is the mining variant, however, so if you enjoy the mining package more than the pure package, go ahead and use this one. It's basically the same stuff in terms of power level. There's also a Hearthstone Brew variant, which sounds awfully weird, but I can see it happening in certain cases. Urban Paladin is not doing as well as it used to, and I also am not seeing the big pally here, so there's that. Highlander Paladin is actually doing awfully swell, but very small sample size, so keep that in mind. On the number 4 spot, we have Totem Shaman doing hella good as well. This one almost has 62% win rate with above 5,000 games. And games with it are pretty quick and not that hard either. You basically tempo out a bunch of totems, you have Stone Wraith to buff him up nicely. Your only removal here would be your Titan, but the jam sessions can also come in clutch against things like Pallies, let's say. The Grand Totem Eyesore is also hella good, and you could discover extra copies of him with the Amalgam. Just be careful what you're using Amalgam on, because if you use it on mistake, you're going to be seeing all kinds of things, and you just want to be using it on a totem in 99% of the time. Totemic Evidence can be hella good, especially if you infuse it and play it with an anchored totem, and with the help of Trusty Companion Jam Session, you could even do some serious damage with the help of the Shroomscavate. Gigantotems usually drop hella fast and for cheap, so yeah, tempoing out with this deck is pretty easy. Matchup wise, right now it literally doesn't even show any bad ones, which is kinda strange, but these are the stats, and I guess climbing should be pretty easy with it. As for the mulligan, here's what it shows going first. The weapon and tour guide are always gonna be amazing, same with Grand Totem Eyesore. Mistake can be also a key, but try not to keep more than one 1-drop usually. Stone Wraith is a no-brainer. here. Totemic Evidence I would keep if I already have a good curve going. Needle Rock Totem is hella good. Trusty Companion can be great if you already have a tour guide, let's say. And Think from Below, maybe if you already have a tour guide plus Carving Chisel, you might consider keeping that as well. As for On the Coin, it's pretty much the same thing, but here the Titan becomes a lot more keepable as well, and things like Amalgam can also be considered. For other good Shaman decks, we also have Elemental Shaman doing pretty decently. Highlander Shaman is also looking okay, and we are seeing some of the newly buffed cards in there as well, which is kinda interesting. Nature Shaman is still playable, but you have to be really good with it to make it work, and that's about it for Shaman. On the number 4 spot, we honestly have 2 Control Warrior lists. One is the big Prince Renatal variant, and the other one is the small efficient one that's running Reno and tons of card draw. Like, they're both doing pretty good right now, like super close stuff. Like, look at them, 61.6 and 61.5 with 3200 and 2200, so it's anyone's choice which one you're gonna pick up here. They're both doing really good, but let's concentrate on the higher sample size, higher win rate one. And yeah, here we have the mining package, we have Surf Finley so you can find your Odin quicker. We obviously have tons of control tools and tons of armor gain, which you could be using just to get out of reach for the opponent, or you could use it for damage when Odin comes into play. But depending on the matchup, you're not always going for the Odin play. Like, if you're something against the Pally, you're not really trying to play the Odin as much. Like, you're just trying to survive, because they're gonna run out of steam very quickly, and in those cases, Trial by Fire is a lot easier for you as a game plan, because they're probably not gonna be able to handle it as well. We also have Ignis in here, so you can get some big boy swings, and depending on the matchup, you might even go for a 1-drop, for a 5-drop, or for a 10-drop. It's usually, if you're against fast matchups, you're going for the 1-drops or 5-drops. If you're going for slow matchups, you're usually going for the 10-drops, or even for the 1-drops. But when you're picking the 1-drop, the main idea here is you basically equip the weapon on the same turn and hope it actually has the Wind Fury on it, and basically OTK him in a single turn with a couple of heavy plates, shield blocks and whatnot, and with the Wind Fury that's above 30 damage. Astalor is also not bad in here, and we're actually not running Bellowing Flames, which is kinda weird since we are running Sir Finley, but I guess it makes some sense. Matchup-wise, Mining Mage is back on the menu, by the way, and it's not one of your good ones, and other warriors might be a problem as well, even though from what I've heard you should be good against the 30 lists, but this is what it shows here. Going first, here's what the stats show. Prince Renatal being your best card, like what the hell? I mean, it's not a bad thing to be playing on turn 3, but really? Is it that good? I wouldn't really hold on to it, that's for sure. Odin is pretty nice, just be careful what you're keeping it against. Like, if you're against the priests, they might be running some shenanigans like Dirty Rats and whatnot. Bladestorm can be great, Bellowing Flame is definitely good. Trial by Fire, especially if you already have a Steam Guardian, can be very nice. And yeah, you basically gotta be smart about what you're holding on to against the different opponents, because different opponents require different removals. As for On the Coin, again, Bladestorm is great, Trial by Fire as well, Bash can be nice, here the Hammer becomes a lot more keepable too. Ignis can be a keep as well, especially if you already have Bellowing Flames. Odin still could be nice, Kobold Miner ain't bad, and even things like Aftershock, depending on the matchup, could be great. Steam Guardian still is decent. For other good warrior decks, we have tons of iterations of Control Warriors out there. There's also straight up Highlander Warriors doing fine, and Rock and Roll Warrior is also above 52, so it is playable, but nothing close to the Control Warriors. A little bit of bonus mention, Sludge Warlock is actually still hella good, and this deck is actually having above 65% win rate, but it has a very small sample size, so take that with a grain of salt. There's also a 58% win rate Sludge Warlock out there, with tons of sample size, so that's nice. So yeah, Sludge Warlock is still an excellent deck to be playing, especially if you know how to play it. This is the list I'm showing you, 65 with 500 games, which is not small. That's for the last 3 days from Diamond to Legend. And this is the other one I'm talking about, almost 59 with 13,000, so that's hella good as well. So yeah, if you're sad about Sludge getting slapped, it definitely deserved it, but it's still very capable of reaching high Legend with. While we're on the Warlock class, might as well see what else is working for the class, and yeah, it's basically just Sludge Warlocks. Control Warlock is also apparently doing acceptably well. This is basically the Fatigue Warlock though, it's Fatigue with Sludges basically. But no, it's actually running Popgar as the single Sludge card here, so yeah, I guess it's somewhat of a different archetype. For the classes we haven't mentioned, starting off with Demon Hunter, so far Spell Demon Hunter has been picking up, and it is running plenty of the newly buffed cards. It's looking kinda interesting, not gonna lie. The win rate is definitely nothing to scoff at, above 5,000 games, so people are jumping on the Demon Hunter bandwagon. Apparently they have been missing this playstyle. With Druids, Treant Druid with a very small sample size at the top, Dragon Druid is probably your best bet still. We also have a high sample size Treant Druid with very good win rate. Highlander Druid still playable with a small sample size, however, and yeah, that's about it for the Druid class. Hunter has been seeing rise in power on Arcane Hunter and on Highlander Hunter, and both are above 58 and 59, so pretty good sample size on them to go with. So yeah, Hunter is also looking kind of fine. Surprisingly, these are still not running the Zombies to 1-drop, which is kind of lame. Like, in a Highlander, you can't even fit that one? Come on, try a little, guys. But yeah, for now, this is what it shows. With Mage, we're seeing Sith Mining Mage getting a rise in power again. I'm not sure what exactly has been stopping them this much. Maybe Sludge Warlocks were a little bit too dominant for him. Elemental Mage with a very small sample size but high win rate is at the top. Secret Mage is also playable apparently. And Mech Mage is also somewhat okay, but nothing close to what it's supposed to. For Priests, Undead Priest is at the top with a very small sample size so far. Automation Priest still decent. Control Priest is up there with a small sample size again. Thief Priest is also somewhat up there, but it's basically again Control Priest with a lot of steal action with the newly buffed cards. And with Rogue, we have things like Big Rogue, Mining Rogue, and Mech Rogue being the best performers for the class. Mining Rogue seems to be the best out of those, with 2 very high sample size, decent win rates. Mech Rogue is doing also pretty fine, Wishing Rogue is also okay, and Pirate Rogue is still looking like garbage. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be hitting Legend with before the season ends. Don't forget to drop a like and a comment under the video for a chance to win a standard bundle from Blizzard. And also don't forget you can head for some Hearthstone coaching. Thanks for watching, I'm Chris05 and I'll see you in my next video or stream.